Your grandparents' basement probably holds more wealth than their bank account ever did. Not in the way you think. I'm not talking about finding a Picasso behind the water heater. I'm talking about the stuff everyone assumes is junk. The cast iron skillet with rust spots. The weird Handcrank meat grinder nobody's touched since 1987. The mason jars your grandmother used for pickles. When supply chains break, when the power grid goes down for weeks instead of hours, when inflation makes a loaf of bread cost what a car payment used to. These items become worth more than their weight in silver. Literally, in some cases. We're about to walk through 8 items sitting in attics across North America that most people would donate or toss. Each one has dual value, practical use during emergencies, and serious resale potential right now. Stick around until the end because I'll give you a quick framework for evaluating anything in your own junk drawer or storage unit. How to spot what's useful for the next collapse versus what you can flip for cash today. Let's get into it. Number 8. Vintage seed tins and heirloom seeds. Empty vintage seed tins from the 1920s through 1960s sell for $15 to $50 each just as collectibles. The graphics are beautiful, nostalgic, and people frame them. But if those tins still contain heirloom seeds, non-hybrid, non-GMO varieties that actually reproduce true to type, you're holding something considerably more valuable. Heirloom seed demand has exploded. Between 2020 and 2024, seed companies reported unprecedented shortages. Certain rare varieties, specific beans, gourds, tomatoes, became impossible to find. I know someone who paid $500 for a packet of 25 seeds of a European gourd variety that's nearly extinct in North America. Not because they're a collector, because they wanted to grow it, save seeds, and never depend on a supply chain again. I experienced this personally. About 5 years ago, I ordered rare heirloom bean seeds from a Canadian catalog. One of those thick paper catalogs that shows up in January with hand-drawn illustrations. I bought way more than I needed, because the varieties were unusual and I figured I'd experiment. Fast forward to 2023 and those exact beans were sold out everywhere. The supplier went out of business. People were desperate. I sold packets of those seeds for $40 to $80 each. I made hundreds of dollars from seeds I'd paid $3 a packet for. Modern hybrid seeds are designed to fail after one generation. You can't save them and replant. That's intentional. It keeps you buying seeds every single year. Heirloom seeds reproduce true, meaning you plant once and you've got seeds forever if you save them properly. In a collapse scenario where seed companies shut down or supply chains break, hybrid seeds become worthless after one season. Heirlooms keep producing indefinitely. That's the difference between 1 year of food and generational food security. Who's buying? Homesteaders building seed banks, preppers creating food independence, gardeners who want rare varieties, and seed savers trying to preserve genetic diversity. These aren't casual hobby gardeners. These are people building systems that work when everything else fails. Number 7. Antique canning jars with glass lids. Not all mason jars are created equal. The modern ball jars you buy at the hardware store are fine, they work. But the old ones, 1920s to 1950s, ball, mason, Kerr, or Atlas jars with glass lids and wire bails are in a completely different category. Some rare versions sell for $50 to $150 per jar. Even common old jars in good condition go for $10 to $20 each. Why? Because they're reusable indefinitely, they don't leach chemicals, and they're built like tanks. Modern canning depends entirely on buying new metal lids every single year. Those lids are single-use, made overseas, and disappeared completely from shelves in 2020 when supply chains hiccuped. If you can't get lids, you can't preserve food, period. Old glass lid jars eliminate that dependency entirely. The rubber gaskets can be reused multiple times, and when they do wear out, you can cut new ones from rubber sheet stock or even bicycle inner tubes. These jars turn food preservation from a supply chain dependent activity into something you control completely. Who's buying? Homesteaders serious about food security, preppers who understand that metal lids are a single point of failure, fermentation enthusiasts who need chemical-free containers, and collectors who want authentic vintage kitchenware. List these on the usual online marketplaces, and you'll have buyers within days. Number 6. Out-of-print books and manuals. Most people assume books have no value anymore because everything's digital. That assumption is wrong for a specific category: practical instructional books on topics like canning, farming, carpentry, mechanics, survival, foraging, and traditional skills. Publishers stopped printing many of these books decades ago. The knowledge inside isn't available in modern editions because the techniques changed or the skills fell out of fashion. Meanwhile, the digital versions live on Amazon servers, locked behind Kindle accounts that require electricity, internet, and ongoing subscriptions. If Amazon decides to delete a book, and they have multiple times, it's gone. You don't own it, you licensed access to it. Physical books are different, you own the knowledge, nobody can revoke it. Old editions of books like Putting Food By, Foxfire series, Square Foot Gardening, first editions, Carla Emery's Encyclopedia of Country Living, or the Boy Mechanic series sell for $30 to $200 plus, depending on condition and edition. Digital information is fragile. It requires functioning infrastructure, electricity, internet access, and corporate cooperation. Physical books work when the power's out, when the internet's down, when your devices are dead. The information density in a good manual, decades of accumulated knowledge, tested techniques, detailed illustrations, can't be replicated by searching online. When Venezuela collapsed, people with practical knowledge books had teachable skills. People who depended on Google had nothing. Who's buying? Homesteaders, building reference libraries, preppers who understand that knowledge is the most valuable prep, tradespeople looking for old-school techniques that actually work, and collectors who recognize that certain editions will never be printed again. These sell fast on the usual online book marketplaces. Number 5. Analog watches and wind-up clocks. Mechanical timepieces are having a resurgence, and it's not just about fashion. It's about functionality when batteries aren't available. A decent vintage wind-up alarm clock sells for $20 to $80. Vintage mechanical wristwatches, especially Swiss or American brands like Hamilton, Bulova, Elgin, or Waltham, can go for $100 to $500 plus, depending on condition and rarity. Even cheap old Soviet-era mechanical watches have a following because they're durable and repairable. During the Weimar Republic hyperinflation in Germany, people traded watches for food. Watches held value when currency didn't. They were portable, universally understood, and functional. That pattern shows up repeatedly in economic collapses. Small, durable goods become informal currency. Mechanical watches are completely independent systems. No batteries, no electronics, no supply chain dependencies. A quality mechanical watch will run for decades with basic maintenance, cleaning and oiling every few years. Compare that to modern smartwatches that become e-waste after 3 years when the battery dies or the company stops supporting the software. In a long-term grid-down scenario, timekeeping becomes critical for coordination, scheduling work, and maintaining routine. A wind-up watch keeps working when everything electronic is dead weight. Who's buying? Preppers, who want reliable timekeeping off-grid, watch collectors who appreciate mechanical craftsmanship, people building barter kits with universally valuable items, and anyone who's realized that digital devices are temporary, while mechanical devices are permanent. You'll find buyers on the usual online marketplaces and specialized watch forums. Now, speaking of time, if you found this useful so far, maybe it's time to hit that subscribe button. I promise I won't ask again for at least another 3 videos, or maybe 2. We'll see how it goes. Number 4. Manual food production machines, specialized farming and garden tools. Manual seeders, sickles, hand cultivators, scythes, broadcast spreaders, these weren't hobby equipment. They were survival technology built when planned obsolescence wasn't a business model. Heavy, durable, and they work without electricity, fuel, or replacement parts. During the Great Depression, families who owned hand tools survived. Families who depended on new machinery often couldn't afford fuel or repairs. The tools that seemed old-fashioned suddenly became essential. That pattern repeats. Let's get specific about the most valuable ones. Handcrank grain mills. A working Victorio or country living grain mill sells for $200 to $400 used. These machines let you turn stored wheat into fresh flour indefinitely. Stored wheat lasts 30 plus years. Stored flour goes rancid in months. That's the difference between long-term food security and short-term supplies. Grain cradles and flails. For harvesting wheat, oats, or rye by hand. These are rare now, and collectors pay $150 to $400 for good examples. A grain cradle lets you harvest wheat by hand when combines aren't running because there's no fuel. Post hole diggers. The heavy two-handled manual ones sell for $40 to $100. You need them for fencing, and fencing matters when you're trying to protect a garden or livestock. Corn shellers and broadcast seeders. Hand crank corn shellers go for $75 to $200. Vintage broadcast seeders fetch $100 plus. A hand crank seeder means you can still plant acres of crops when everyone else is stuck. Hay forks and manure forks. The old forged steel ones with wooden handles last forever. Modern ones break. People know this, and they're paying $25 to $60 for vintage versions. Hand cultivators and scythes, even rusty ones needing restoration, sell for $30 to $60. A properly maintained vintage scythe will outlast 10 modern ones. Old tools were forged, not stamped. The metal is thicker, the welds are real, and the handles were made from hardwood that's now illegal to harvest in most places. Modern tools are designed to break, so you buy replacements. Old tools were designed to pass down to your grandchildren. These specialized tools represent skills and food production methods that modern society forgot. The knowledge of how to use them is disappearing, which makes the tools themselves even more valuable to the people who understand what they enable. Number 3, hand-cranked kitchen tools. These were standard kitchen equipment until the 1960s. Then they disappeared when electric appliances took over. Now they're back because people realize electric appliances are single points of failure. Meat grinders. The old cast iron hand crank ones, Universal, Griswold, Enterprise, sell for $40 to $150 depending on size and condition. You can grind meat, make sausage, or even process vegetables without electricity. Egg beaters. Vintage rotary. Egg beaters go for $10 to $40. They work better than you'd think, and they never need charging. Coffee mills. Hand crank coffee grinders from the early 1900s sell for $30 to $100 plus. Coffee nerds love them because they produce consistent grounds, and preppers love them because coffee matters during stressful times. Ask anyone who lived through the siege of Sarajevo. Coffee became incredibly valuable as a morale item. Apple peelers. Those spiral hand crank apple peelers sell for $25 to $80. You can process bushels of apples in an afternoon for canning, drying, or making applesauce. Electric kitchen appliances depend on a functioning power grid, available replacement parts, and motors that eventually burn out. Hand crank tools are mechanical solutions that work indefinitely. A meat grinder from 1920 still grinds meat in 2026. An electric grinder from 2020 is already in a landfill. During extended power outages, whether from storms, grid failures, or infrastructure collapse, these tools mean you can still process and preserve food while everyone else is eating cold cans. Number 2, silverware sets. Real silver flatware was standard in middle-class homes from the 1920s through the 1960s. Then it fell out of fashion. People inherited sets from their parents, stuck them in a drawer, and forgot about them. Silver prices have been climbing. Sterling silver flatware, marked sterling or 925, is currently worth about $20 to $30 per ounce of pure silver, and a full set can contain 30 to 60 ounces depending on size. That's $600 to $1,800 in melt value alone, before considering any collector or antique value. But full sets in good condition often sell for more than melt value. A complete service for 12 in a desirable pattern like Gorham, Towel, or Wallace can sell for $1,500 to $3,000. Silver has been recognized as money for 5,000 years across every civilization. It's universally valued, easily divided, and holds worth regardless of what any government says. During Argentina's 2001 currency collapse, people traded silver items for food, fuel, and medicine when paper pesos became worthless overnight. Silverware is unique because it's both a wealth storage device and functionally useful. You can eat with it while it stores value. It's also small enough to trade in increments. You can't trade half a gold bar, but you can trade a silver spoon. Number 1. Old cast iron cookware. Griswold, Wagner, Lodge, Vintage, Birmingham Stove and Range. These names mean something in the cast iron world. A Griswold number 8 skillet in good condition sells for $100 to $300. Rare pieces go for $500 plus. Even rusty old cast iron that looks like trash can be restored and sold for $30 to $80. Modern cast iron doesn't compare. The old stuff was machined smooth. The new stuff is rough and takes years of seasoning to become non-stick. Vintage cast iron is lighter, smoother, and performs better. Chefs know this. So do preppers. Cast iron works on any heat source. Gas stove, electric range, wood fire, charcoal grill, campfire, even buried directly in coals. It lasts centuries if you don't drop it. You can cook anything. Bread, stew, eggs, roasted meat, cornbread, even bake cakes. One good skillet and a Dutch oven cover 90% of cooking needs without requiring specialized equipment. Modern non-stick pans are coated with chemicals that off-gas when overheated and degrade after a few years of use. Cast iron gets better with age, becomes more non-stick over time, and adds dietary iron to your food. During the Depression, cast iron kept families fed when everything else failed because it required no replacement parts, no special care, and worked with whatever heat source was available. Who's buying? Survivalists who know cast iron is the most reliable cooking method, campers and outdoor enthusiasts who cook over fire, chefs who want superior heat retention and cooking performance, and preppers who understand that cookware needs to last decades without depending on manufacturers. List on usual online marketplaces or in cast iron collector groups. These sell fast. So you're standing in front of a storage unit, an attic, or your grandfather's workshop. How do you figure out what's valuable? Ask 3 questions. 1. Does it work without electricity or fuel? Hand tools, manual equipment, mechanical devices, these have dual value. Practical use during disruptions and resale appeal to preppers and homesteaders. 2. Is it made of durable materials that modern versions aren't? Cast iron, forged steel, solid wood, real silver, thick glass. If it's built better than what you can buy today, someone will pay for it. 3. Is it rare, discontinued, or hard to replace? Out-of-print books, heirloom seeds, old tool brands that no longer exist, antique jars with specific features. Scarcity creates value. If an item checks 2 of those boxes, research it before you toss it. If it checks all 3, you've likely got something worth holding onto or selling. The next collapse isn't a question of if, it's a question of when and what form it takes. Supply chain breakdown, currency crisis, extended grid failure, economic depression, maybe all of them at once, spaced out over years. Your grandparents' generation understood this instinctively. They kept things that worked. They valued durability over convenience. And now, decades later, those dusty items in the basement or attic are looking pretty smart. Start looking around. You might be sitting on more wealth than you realize. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.